Joe Scarborough of Morning Joe over on MSNBC, I see he's still with the shits.
Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah, obviously facing strong criticism for his social media posts about the Minnesota shooting suspect. Yesterday, Lee posted a picture of the suspect at the door of one of the lawmakers with the caption, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." It is the pinned tweet at the top of his page. 25 minutes later, the senator posted another picture of the suspected shooter with the caption, "Nightmare on Wall Street," mocking, of course, the situation with the name of the Minnesota governor. A conservative journalist, Brad Palumbo, responded to one of the posts writing, quote, "What the hell is Mike Lee doing? Has he completely lost it?" Meanwhile, contributing editor for The Atlantic, Norm Ornstein, wrote, "Even for Mike Lee, this is beyond disgusting, disinformation beneath contempt." We're used to wackos on the extremes on both sides.
And that's when my listening ears shut completely off. Because Morning Joe and MSNBC and all of mainstream news media, they are a part of the problem. They cannot accurately call out Republicans and their extremism without trying to play both sides. When we know there is no both sides when it comes to this level of extremism. There is no both sides when it comes to inciting violence against political opponents. There is no both sides when it comes to using public platforms to incite violence and to be disgusting towards political opponents. There is no both sides. It is 100% Republicans doing all of that shit, and Joe Scarborough knows it. Joe Scarborough and all of mainstream news media is the reason why you had a right-wing nut job show up to lawmakers' homes and unalive them, because they do not rightfully place the blame at the feet of those who are responsible. The people over at Fox News, their news hosts, those are stochastic terrorists. But let's talk about some of the incidents that have taken place that we've all seen. We may have forgotten about it, but we've all seen it. Y'all remember Caesar Sayoc? Yes, this is Caesar Sayoc. Caesar Sayoc, who also had that van that had all of those pictures and cutouts about CNN and Democratic lawmakers. You remember Caesar Sayoc was a Trump loyalist. He was the guy that mailed 16 pipe bombs to people like President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. Remember, he sent one to George Soros. CNN sent one to Don Lemon and some of the news anchors over there. The good thing is none of the pipe bombs that he tried to mail went off. But yeah, he was caught, he was found, he was charged and was found guilty, sentenced to 20 years in jail. Y'all remember the mosque bombing out in Bloomington, Minnesota, I believe? One of them cities out there in Minnesota. I believe it was the Farouk Mosque. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but there were two individuals that were MAGA Donald Trump supporters that were a part of a militia, and they were domestic terrorists, and they bombed a mosque because they were attacking Arab Americans. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember the campaign bus, Kamala Harris's campaign bus out in Texas, where 20, 30 people from the MAGA crowd, the Republican crowd, locked in the bus and then slowed down the traffic, and one of those people sideswiped the Harris bus. Y'all remember that? I don't know. I can't remember if criminal charges were filed, but I do remember that there were civil charges filed, and I believe somebody ended up having to pay, somebody within that group ended up having to pay somebody like $40,000-$50,000. Y'all can fill in the specifics down below. Y'all remember Nancy Pelosi's husband? The guy that broke into Nancy Pelosi's house, that was a MAGA Republican nut job that broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and attacked Nancy Pelosi's elderly husband with a hammer. The man ended up in the hospital having to go through surgery. Yeah, he was a Republican right-wing extremist nut job. I believe he was found guilty and ended up serving 20 to 30 years in prison. Y'all remember the Walmart massacre that took place out in El Paso, Texas? I think it was El Paso, Texas. Y'all could correct me down in the comments. It happened in 2018, 2019, 2020. Yeah, that person who went into Walmart, people just doing their everyday shopping, minding their business, that person was a right-wing Republican MAGA nut, conservative nut job. Went into Walmart. He drove 600 miles, went to that Walmart, and unalived 23 people in cold blood. Why? Because he was protesting immigration. Yeah, listening to all of the nonsense that Donald Trump and Republicans was putting out there. Went to that Walmart, murdered 23 people who was minding their business, grocery shopping, probably buying shoes for their children. He went into that Walmart and murdered 23 people because of all of the lies and misinformation that Donald Trump and Republicans was putting out there regarding immigration. Thought that there was some invasion happening down at the border. Y'all remember Donald Trump and Republicans putting that lie out there, Fox News, that there was an invasion coming to the border? And now we're dealing with this guy. This guy, Vance Bolter, who went to lawmakers' homes, Democratic lawmakers' homes, a place where they're supposed to be safe, place where they lay their head, a place where they seek refuge from the world. He went to their home and unalived a Minnesota lawmaker, Vance Bolter. And then immediately, right-wing extremists, nut jobs out there on social media, one of them, a congressman, the Congressman Mike Lee that Joe Scarborough is talking about, they immediately jump to spinning a narrative, telling lies, trying to get the heat off of them and their extremism and put it on to Democrats. When we've all learned the truth, the man is a right-wing nut job, a Donald Trump supporter, a MAGA supporter, an evangelical nut job. We've learned the truth. And he planned to shoot 70 other people. He had a list of other Democratic politicians that he planned to take out. And Mike Lee posted some lying, deplorable shit out there on social media. And Joe Scarborough uses his platform, knowing all of these different stories are out there, knowing all of what the right wing has done, and tries to come to you and play in your face and say both sides. Research has been done. Research has been done. The numbers are out there. The proof is out there. The Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, put this report out. You can go out and find it out there on social media. It's called the ADL, or the Anti-Defamation League, Murder and Extremism, I believe the report is. But here are the numbers. 75%. They went through the cases from 2013 to 2022, and 75% of all extremist related murders in the U.S. were committed by far right extremists. Far left extremists, that equates to less than 4%. In 2022, every single ideologically motivated murder came from far right actors, extremists on the far right, white supremacists, racists. That's who are responsible. They are driven by white supremacy. They are driven by anti-immigration ideology. They are driven by their hatred for the LGBTQIA plus community. They are driven by Donald Trump and his election denial lies he was putting out there. They are driven by misinformation, QAnon conspiracy theory. They are driven by their hatred for black people. That's what they are driven by. And they target anyone that is not white, black, Latino, Muslim. They target anyone that does not march by their rules, their standards. The LGBTQIA plus community. Journalists. If journalists are out there speaking against their mad king, yeah, they will become a target. The extremism on the right does not compare to what's happening on the left. What's happening on the left? Protests. That's what's happening on the left. Property damage here and there. That's what's happening on the left. On the right, bombings, mass shootings. Physically attacking everyday Americans that are just trying to live their lives in this country. Bullying and harassment out there on social media. Bullying and harassing out there in the streets. That's what the right is doing. The left, they aren't attacking people. They aren't doing mass shootings. People on the left, they aren't doing that shit. And I'm sick and tired of people talking about both sides. It does not compare. It does not equate. What it does do, it gives the extremists, the terrorists on the right, a pass. It gives them the idea that they are in defense mode. And so therefore they have to attack. That's what it does. People like Joe Scarborough and MSNBC, they make people like Vance, who showed up at that lawmaker's home and unalived her and her husband. The facts are the facts. The numbers are out there to prove it. The FBI, the intelligence agency, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, they've also done reports that have talked about how white supremacy and the violence stemming from white supremacists on the right has escalated in this country since Donald Trump has come down that escalator. The numbers are out there. The proof is out there. So for these people to continue to talk about both sides, they're being disingenuous. They're spreading misinformation. They are a part of the problem. Far-right, MAGA-aligned extremism is the greatest domestic threat, terror threat in this country. It isn't up for debate. It's backed by law enforcement, terrorism experts, and the data itself. If we want to protect democracy, Joe Scarborough, if you want to protect democracy, then you have to start by telling the truth and laying the blame at the feet of those that are responsible. Quit playing in our motherfucking faces.